And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Valley of the Judged, a emergency edition of the Valley of the Judged. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me is my good brother here in the temple, our resident sky pirate, good brother Sizer.
Pleasure to be here, Mildra, especially with the game we're talking about today. It's very near and dear to my heart. But why don't you go ahead and tell us what we're going to be looking at today?
So, a while back, it was announced that shortly after Studio Agat had gotten the rights to 7th Sea, that they were going to be making a 3rd edition. I had things on my radar. They talked about what they were planning on doing on a spin-off of their Patreon page dedicated just to 7th Sea, because Studio Agat does a lot of other things. And then, a few days ago, a full Quickstart PDF dropped, and took me completely off guard. And
not expected.
I didn't feel like jamming it into any of the one-shot days that over the next week. So instead, I was like, you know what? Let's see if we can cram it in on a day that I'm not doing anything and do a emergency episode. Because I wanted to strike while the iron was hot.
And I agree, you know, that you can't leave this one line for long.
Mm-hmm. Especially since my mindset was, if I leave it waiting for too long, an updated version will come and I'll have to redo all my notes.
Indeed.
That kind of thing has happened before. And I know some people would take the cynical route and go, it's because of the fact that John Wick isn't involved with this one that it's going to be shit. But Studio Agat is not some fly-by-night studio. They are a very well-renowned studio out in France that has already done several high-quality projects on their own. They've already dipped their toe in 7th Sea about 2 years ago with the Price of Arrogance module, which I was running on this channel before the momentum stopped.
Indeed, I saw them selling that at Gen Con earlier in the year. Almost picked it up, but I was a little too cash poor at the time.
Yeah. Price of Arrogance is a big book. It is the kind of module that you're going to be going through for months, and because of some of the design choices that they made, you could run that multiple times and get different vibes.
Cool. You know, you're right with it being so big, though. I thought when I first saw it, I'm like, the Price of Arrogance. That is an odd name for a core book. But that is not what it is.
Nope. It is a module. They have described it as Indiana Jones meets Pirates of the Caribbean. And while it can be
Love it.
it can be done solo, I will always recommend that people at least have one of the New World expansions, since that is a big deal there. Uh,
Indeed. I assume I don't remember what their version of the Caribbean is called, but I assume a lot of it happens over there.
pretty much, uh, both the Caribbean and some parts of Mexico, or
Hmm,
the equivalent on Thea.
right. And I assume that they have some analog to the Aztecs over there, probably.
Yeah, the Aslans.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they didn't even stray very far there. Not that they usually do, but
I mean, we have Thea. Old Thea has Avalon as one of the countries. Like the the countries of Old Thea aren't exactly straying too far from their inspirations.
no. Pretty
Uh,
clear what's what there.
mhm. And things like the fact that the Crescent Empire is very much trying to be the Fertile Crescent part of the Middle East. Um,
Yeah,
you
and
know,
the Ottoman Empire,
mhm,
and Castile or Castile, however you want to say it,
yeah,
is actually a province in Spain.
yep.
Stuff like that.
Um, Kitai is very much Imperial China.
Hmm.
Um, as well as the fact that let's not forget that Vatican City is just the Vatican with an
I've seen
E.
yeah. Oh,
But
buddy.
not only but there were remember there were two books during the second edition years for the New World. There was the
Hmm.
New World itself and the Land of a Thousand Nations.
And also the pirate nations, if you want. I think, or pirate nations, or something along those lines, for just for
Yep.
the Caribbean. Yeah.
Yeah, the pirate nations in the Atabian Sea.
Hmm.
Uh, is although one thing that I kind of wish would be carried over from second edition is the poster presentation of some of the covers.
Sure, like how they made them look like movie posters essentially,
Yeah.
and listed all the staff as like the way you would in like movie credits or on a movie poster.
Hmm.
So, which is pretty nifty.
Yeah. But the
And they still might. Who knows? We don't. I don't think we don't really see that in this quick start. I don't believe.
I don't think we're
Scanning.
going to be covering the New World for this because that would be eyes bigger than your stomach.
Yeah, that'd be a lot. We're good with just our version of Europe this time out. I think, at least for this quick start.
Yeah, and for the sake of clarity, because I know some people are going to be coming into this who haven't the level of experience with 7th C first or second edition that you and I have. I think going a bit into some of the nations of Thea is paramount. And I do recall there was a nice little primer in the basic rules box, which I will crack open. Uh,
Hmm.
I had used this primer to kind of help people get the gist of the different areas
Yes,
because again, not only do you have the different nations, but also so many secret societies.
indeed. Usually finding themselves based on something that really existed, like the. I remember the Knights of the Rose and Cross are pretty obviously the Rosicrucians.
Hmm.
So there you go.
Yeah, but Avalon, the Three Crowns, is essentially the British Isles.
Hmm.
Oh, or the major parts of the British Isles, whereas Innismore is basically Ireland.
Hmm.
Uh, even down to having the harp as part of their symbol.
Indeed.
Uh, the Highland Marches is the Scots.
Hmm.
uh,
I think we have a representative there on the cover. It looks like
mhm,
that guy with the sash who's just in the like to the south
mhm.
west of the looks like a Highlander to me.
Yeah. Uh, there's Castile, which is very Spain. Actually,
Hmm.
Spain, but is somehow the home of the Vatican Church.
Is that where it is in there? Okay, that is odd. Not in Vadachi, huh?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, Isen, which the land may be mud, but it's our mud. Um,
Hmm. Their theme has always kind of been like this land recovering from a long, long war.
yeah. I'd say Isen is post Hundred Years War Germany.
Yeah, or Prussia, because we didn't. Germany didn't come around to like what 18 the later part of the
Hmm.
19th century.
So essentially the Bavarian regions.
Yeah.
Um, Montaigne is pre-revolution France. Um,
Hmm.
in second edition, they were just on the cusp of the French Revolution starting.
Hmm.
Uh, the Samaritan Commonwealth I'd say is Russia, like Imperial Russia.
No, that's Usura. The looking in the I think
Ec-
you know the Commonwealth was like related to something that I wasn't really aware of, which was like an early Polish Lithuanian democratic experiment.
that would make sense because I do believe one of the old flags for that region did have the double-headed eagle,
Okay.
which is I have seen some people try and claim that the double-headed eagle that the Imperium uses in 40K is referencing those Germans. When anyone who says that doesn't know their history, that kind of eagle motif has been used with so many different nations, going all the way back to Rome.
Yeah. Though it does make you wonder where Games Workshop grabbed it, but they're I think the artists for 40K just kind of really enjoy that aesthetic and will um
I
just go
think
all out with it they
the most
can.
common the most common flag that had the double-headed eagle was the Prussian flag, I believe.
Okay.
Uh,
Makes sense.
and the Empire of Man in Warhammer Fantasy is very proto-Germanic.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah,
very
I could
Holy
see the
Roman
emperor
Empire.
as like the Holy Roman Empire, Holy Roman Emperor or something.
Hmm.
If if you were like dead, sort of.
Yeah, especially given the sheer amount of chaos of all the different provinces and and regions within the Holy Roman Empire. If you've ever seen the map of it.
Yeah, I think I have. It's been a while, but yeah,
Hmm. But yeah,
yeah.
Usura is most definitely um, Imperial Russia.
Strong like bear.
Mhm. Um, Vesten, which I never try and pronounce the full name of.
I can do it for you if you'd like.
Go ahead.
I I believe we try. I believe it's supposed to be Vestin Manavinyar.
Mhm.
Not 100% sure on that, but I think it's a good approximation.
Yeah, that is the Norse regions.
Yep. Who are like pulled between modernity and tradition.
Mhm.
That's one of the big things they've got going on.
Well, one of the real telltale signs for me was the fact that the surname is instead of the family name, your family name or rather your surname is um based on your father's name.
Yeah, like Lars' son or Lars' daughter or etc. etc.
Hmm. But then there's Vodach, which The place from
Italian merchant princes. Yeah.
Yep, the Italian merchant princes with all the chaos that's involved there. And remember, I am La Vagabundo, and so are you,
Yeah,
and so are the people listening
indeed.
to this. Uh,
Oh boy. There's a lot of I think there's a lot of inspiration when it comes to Vodacci. In politicking, there's a lot of stuff that they drew from like, the Florentine nobles like the Borgias.
mhm.
A lot of that going around.
A lot of that going around. I could do a 2-year class on the absolute shit show that was the Borgia family.
Yep. And I want to point out, just to anybody who's new to Seven Sea, that this does not really. It's everything here is an anachronism, right?
Mhm.
They pull from all different eras of history. Like we have the Arthurian Round Table happening as the same time as like the reign of Louis XIV, right?
Mhm.
So, or who is also, and Emperor Leon is also kind of a pastiche of Louis XIV and Louis XVI. So there's a lot, and like the Queen of Avalon has got a bit of Arthur and a bit of Queen Elizabeth thrown in there too.
Mhm.
So just pastiches everywhere, stuff pulled from any kind of place that they thought would make the game more dramatic, place or time, really.
And adding drama is a watchword you're going to see a lot when you look at Seventh Sea. And much
Especially in
like
first edition.
yeah, much like with um, Legend of the Five Rings, a series that at one point was under the same family that I'm also very fond of.
AEG, right?
Yep. Oh,
Yep.
trying to take a historical realism approach with either Thea or Rokugan is
Mm.
going to result in nothing less but making you look like a fool.
Yeah, absolutely. It is not meant to be um, compared to any particular time. Its attitudes are that it's very rule of cool as far as where they pulled all of their inspirations from.
It's very rule of
And
cool, and Thea is not trying to be a literal translation of 14th century Europe.
not at all.
It is it is Thea with its own
It
world, its
want
own history, and all that.
it wants to be kind of like a swashbuckling adventure movie or story. It's very from the works of Dumas, um, uh, from any kind of. I think Dumas is really where we pull it from, as well as stuff like, you know, uh, Treasure Island, other things along those lines. Classic adventure stories that you probably, were forced to read as a kid are what you're going to see being represented here.
Speak for yourself.
And I think,
I read that shit willingly.
yeah, fair enough. I mean, like, what can I say? I'm like the pirate guy, right?
Hmm.
I've gone out of my way to read stuff like Treasure Island, and I've got a big shelf full of nautical fiction in my bedroom.
Yeah.
So,
When I was prepping for doing the episode the series on the price of arrogance,
yeah,
um I have a bit of a habit where I have my players watch a certain movie as prep material. I could have
mm,
gone with Pirates of the Caribbean, but I felt that was too easy, so I went with Master and
sure.
Commander.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a fun one. Um, and like I've never. Have you ever tried to read the Aubrey Maturin um, novels?
I did. I would hesitate to recommend them to other people unless they are massive naval geeks, because a lot
Indeed,
of the writing is going to go right over their heads otherwise.
it really does. And there's like even a dictionary of that terminology that you can purchase to read alongside them if you really want to put the work in to understand what's being said there.
Which I have a feeling that dictionary was put in later printings. I have a feeling the
Oh, I'm
original
sure it was.
printing did not have that.
Yeah. No, it's like a separate book is for the whole series.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, much like how any version of the Princess Bride that you end up reading is probably going to be the abridged version, not the unabridged.
mm, yeah, no doubt.
Uh,
And speaking of which, another major influence on 7C.
mhm. Yeah, as an aside, it was really funny when there was a bit of talk about doing a remake of The Princess Bride, and the entire internet bullied it out of existence.
Like, I mean, I'm not against a remake, but perfection is perfection. I don't know how you're going to improve upon it in any way, in any
Yeah,
meaningful way.
when I say everybody, I mean even the entirety of the former cast was was voicing like, "No, do not do that." And then
Yeah.
I never heard about it again. Can't imagine why.
Well, can't imagine why.
Mhm.
Think we're probably all okay with that in the long run, though.
Yeah. Uh, I have considered putting in a feat in Legend Edition just called "I'm Not Left-Handed."
Yeah.
Uh, but and I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Zoro, who El Vagabundo is basically Zoro in all but name.
Yes. Again, that's not even in the right part of the world, but still works very well in the setting.
Well, we you don't really have the you don't 7C
Well,
doesn't
I'll
really
say
have
this.
an
I'll say
equivalent
this.
of the California Republic yet.
Yeah, that's very true. Take them. It's going to take them a few more centuries to get there, probably.
Hmm. Oh yeah, but with this quick start, it is going into some of the basics, presenting a few pre-gens and one ready-to-play scenario. Obviously, much like in previous seasons, we will not be covering the scenario itself.
Yeah,
But
fine with me.
I do appreciate the usual commitment to visual style, even with the small text for this. That is something that Studio Agat has had a long and proud history for.
Hmm.
Uh, even though even though it is a 5e thing, I always recommend people to look at Fate Forge and how it's presented.
Yeah.
Because that is, as well as things like Shadows of Esthian, or more recently, the TTRPG adaptation of the Tainted Grail universe.
Mm.
And with Fate Forge, it does have its own video game, but it's more of a game book in the style of a video game, if I'm being honest.
Gotcha. Like a visual novel kind of thing. Oh no, wait. You mean a game book,
Lone
like
Wolf,
like a character builder kind of thing, or
like Lone Wolf or Fighting Fantasy.
okay.
Uh, and and there were other projects such as the Draconis book, which I do have, as well as Echoes in the Deep, which was them taking a stab at doing game books.
Yeah.
But I also appreciate the fact that unlike, say, 5e, and every edition of D&D I've run that wants to play halfsies with this idea, Fate
Hmm.
Forge actually has a setting, Ayana.
Yeah, I may have to look at it now. But
I,
maybe not the game. I've already got my backlog is so friggin' big at this point.
yeah. Uh, but if nothing else, just look at one of the PDFs through the just for the art at the very least.
Cool. Fate
And
Forged. Got it.
I will also appreciate any game that not only puts its foot down regarding setting or not, but also has in-universe cooking.
Nice.
Uh, but
With does it have does the cooking have game mechanic effects.
Um, I'd have to double check. It's been a while since I read through that edition for Fate Forged,
Mm,
but there's also a symbol-based thing for if you want characters to lean into particular subgenres of fantasy, which is something that was carried over into Price of Arrogance, of
okay.
certain variations of parts of the adventure. If you want to lean into more courtly intrigue, if you want to lean more into the and the early engineering aspects of that era, or if you want to lean to the supernatural aspects, or mix and match. You're not locked
Okay.
into one of those styles. Uh,
Cool. Make it modular. Add in the stuff that you like.
mhm. But first, we have an introduction that it is a swashbuckling adventure where you're playing larger than life adventurers. Uh, and then
Indeed.
going into the setting, with which some of the, with I think a good chunk of the ones that are here we listed. Um,
There's one new one that I noticed. I looked through this, at least this part earlier, and that's Numa. I mean, which has been in the setting before, but hasn't really been visited that much. But
mhm.
it's basically Greece, and also it was. I remember a lot of the sorceries, released in previous editions, sort of descended from Numa.
Yeah. So by the time we get to second edition, um, sorceries are nation specific, and none of them work like the others.
No, that was true in first edition as
Mhm.
well. It was just their origin. Like if you delved into the lore, the origin to be traced back to Numa. But like Avalon had its fairy magic and and what Montaigne had Porte, Vodacce had Sorte, etc., etc.
Hmm. Uh, I think I have a Sword A Strega deck somewhere here.
Ooh, cool.
Mhm.
I think I bought my entire collection of 7C books from a friend, and I think just like last year, and it was a good deal too. But I think that they did give us a Sorte deck with that as well. I should look for that.
Yeah, and obviously, secret societies are just as important as nations. We already talked
Hmm.
about Los Vagabundos, which it looks like the sample adventure we have here is operating under the assumption that the PCs are associated with that society. Uh,
Hell yeah.
and El- the Vagabond, I made the Spartacus joke, but that's always been one of the big mystery. Who is the Vagabond? I've always been of
Yeah.
the idea that it is not one person, which is why anytime he tries to get captured, it turns out to be a fake out.
Yep. That what in first edition that was like the official reveal if you got into the lore. That there was one particular guy who started it who was your who was the Don Diego de la Vega of the setting,
Hmm.
but then made it so that anybody could potentially put on the mask and cape and become El Vagabundo in a pinch.
Hmm. Uh, which makes sense when they operate more in cells than anything else. Uh,
Yep.
Obviously, the Vatican is a significant highlight. Um, it is it is still kind of weird to me that the Vatican is located in these in Castile
Yeah.
and
I
not
mean,
in
I get
Badach.
Vodacce. It's weird. I guess they maybe the idea is that Castile is supposed to be um, the most pious nation, and so they figured maybe they should just put it there. But like, familiarity breeds contempt. I've heard it said that no one cares less about what the Catholic Church has to say than Italians. So I don't know.
Yeah, and of course the Inquisition is brought up in this as well. How unexpected.
Very unexpected. No one expects it.
Hmm. Although if the Inquisition is in this, then maybe it makes sense that the Vatican is in Castile.
There we go. Just make it easy.
Yep. Nobody
Uh,
expects the Castile Inquisition.
oh,
But then we get into the concept of heroes, and I appreciate that once again it is made clear that you're not playing some average Joe with a sword, even at the start. You are some larger than life character.
yeah. And even in first edition, it was you were never a DM was never supposed to, or GM was never supposed to just like allow a character to be killed. If a character was going to be killed, it was supposed to be negotiated ahead of time. It was very hard for a character to like die through gameplay.
Hmm.
You'd always have like a KO mechanic or a capture mechanic, but you were there to, and this goes into the focus of that edition had on dramatics.
Hmm.
It was all about the story. And you can take that as you will. I think that approach, we had a lot of fun with that approach when I ran my original campaign. But there were some frustrations with some aspects of it. So
Yeah, I look at it as as a commitment to the cinematic style it's going for, and
hmm
if you want something more grounded, this is not the game for you. Is what
no,
it is saying. And
not
contrary
at
to
all.
popular belief, not every game is built to do everything.
Yes, this is correct.
Mhm. But heroes are a combination of four elements: traits, skills, advantages, and combat aptitudes. Uh, I doubt we're going to be doing that whole advantage disadvantage thing like in first edition. That was a common thing in the 90s, and it's something I don't miss.
Yeah, I mean, Savage World still do they still do that? I remember that being a big aspect of like Deadlands, for instance.
Um, they do, but there are only so many drawbacks you can take.
Mm,
You do have a hard cap on that, so it isn't as bad as the min max problem in the 90s.
right.
But the quick start that we have is going to have 5 characters. Manuela de Oliveira de la Cruz, a Castilian officer. Hughes de la Chapelle Montremont, a Montaigne diplomat. Mallory Riley, an Avalonian thief. Hans Mueller, an Isen bodyguard. And Veronica Cardinale, a Vodach fate witch.
hmm
Uh,
Got at least one sorcerer in there.
yeah. Now, traits are the core stats and are basically the same as how they were in second edition. You have
Yep.
brawn, finesse, panache, resolve, and wits, which are rated from
And
0 to
thirsty
5.
too.
Hmm?
Yep.
And
Oh, just saying that they were saying so that was true in first as well.
yeah, uh, I do appreciate the sidebar regarding scholarship because I've mentioned this before. I really do not like having individual scholarship subjects as their own skills.
Hmm.
Uh, and some games will have a dividing stat between street smart and book smart. We don't have that here. It's still if you're trying to research something or study something or check if you know something, that's still wits, and I'm fine with that.
Yes.
Um,
Indeed. I like I think people are starting to rethink the way they go about the intelligence trait,
mhm,
which, intelligence is not like an easily quantifiable thing, right? And I appreciate that. We did that in Skies as well, where the amount of cunning your character has, their ability to make plans and execute them, is not even represented by a stat. That's up to the player to do. Um, but and you can have a character who is not book smart and still be the lead can still be the leader of the party, for
mhm.
instance.
Oh yeah, and I've I I had to deal with a lot of games that wanted to get very specific regarding skills and attributes to the
hmm
point of excess. This is the
Hmm.
reason why I've stated many times Phoenix Command is on a list of games I will never run again. It's
Hmm.
also the reason that I've treated the Palladium system as my whipping boy for most of my life. Uh,
Ugh,
and even something like GURPS is no saint when it comes to this either. But
indeed.
with skills, we have 21 of them in total. I do appreciate that that skills are divided into categories instead of being one big dumb list. I always appreciate that.
I do notice looking through this that there's a few typos here
Hmm.
as far as the bullets go, but I think we'll notice that as we go through them.
Yeah. So the cunning skills are investigation, stealth, theft, extraordinary, legends,
No,
theology.
ex- extraordinary is the next category.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what threw me off there. Um,
Yeah.
so extraordinary is the next category, which is legends, theology, source, and sorcery. Yeah, I'm seeing what you mean because then it goes right into
Yeah.
martial. So, and the way
Yep.
it's set up there, you would think, oh, that's another extraordinary skill. No,
Yep.
martial is the combat skills, which in this case are going to be aim, even though it doesn't have the bullet point.
Yep.
Um, athletics, melee. So it looks like for each category, there's supposed to be only 3 skills,
Yeah.
which I'm perfectly fine with. But I think this could use a bit of an editing pass.
Yeah, for sure.
um, military is sailing, strategy, and survival.
Hmm.
Politics is intrigue, protocol, and self control.
Hmm.
Scholarship is engineering, humanities, and science.
Hmm.
The science skill is also used to heal. Very nice.
Ah,
Uh, social is empathy, persuasion, and perform. And I
okay.
like that. This is another thing that I don't miss is the fact that there is no perception or awareness skill.
Yeah. Because that
Um,
gets what skill gets rolled more than any other in a game like this, right?
mhm.
Anytime anyone goes into a new room, can I roll perception, right?
Yeah, in Legend Edition, I have a sidebar in the skill section titled "No Spot Checks,"
Yeah.
because while I do have while I do have the orienteering skill, which apparently some people have decided to take offense to, I guess because it sounds too much like Oriental, but orienteering
Eh.
is a thing that is done, so bite me.
Yeah.
But I'll read off what I put in page 191 for orienteering.
Yeah.
Orienteering is not something used to look for everything everywhere all the time. Generally, it is
Yeah.
assumed that your passive situational awareness catches most things around you, and the only things that are are intentionally obscured or particularly difficult to determine would be the subject of one of orienteering's uses. Furthermore, orienteering is used to look for specific subjects, and not to fully assess an entire area in whole, i.e., I look for something unusual isn't enough for orienteering. I'm looking for the Duchess's hidden crown jewels would be appropriate for orienteering.
Indeed.
Uh, you have a
Yeah,
similar
and
kind of mindset with Gumshoe as well.
indeed, and I think that people who think that it's trying to say something about like Asian cultures are taking the wrong use of the word because to orient um as a complete I don't know I won't say that I know the etymology of it, but the way we use it today is a different usage. So,
Uh, it's the old Mott and Bailey trick when it comes to that, and I only saw it when the game got posted on Reddit, and
okay.
redditors had to be redditors, um,
Sure.
including a few who were like, "Oh, this is just a D&D variant,"
You
which
know, I work at a clinic where we treat people who have had brain injuries and strokes. And every day they have what's called orientation group.
mhm.
Okay, because a lot of the people there don't have good memories. Sometimes they forget where they are, so they do that in order to orient them.
Hmm.
I don't think anyone's gonna try and accuse my workplace of being Orientalist, though. So
Yeah,
anyway, we're getting off
but
track.
then we have specialties. If you roll using a specialty, that's where you get the exploding dice, which
Okay.
is more of a leaning towards first edition than second. First off, second
Yes.
edition did not have specialties. Oh, and
Yeah. Did
instead,
it have? Did tens always explode in seconds?
10, not always. You only got
Okay.
exploding dice after you got a few ranks in that skill, and
Okay.
you did not get it from traits, if I recall.
Mm,
Just
okay.
so let me double check things to make sure I'm not talking out of my ass. Um, I'm loading up the thing
The second
traits and
edition
skills. Um,
traits and
there are more
skills. Yep.
there are more skills in third edition here than there were in second.
Mm,
I can say that for certain.
okay.
But let's see.
They mostly seem useful.
Hmm. I don't have a problem with a larger skill list. I have a problem when you have a bunch of skills that are far too situational.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes.
but let me see where let's I'm trying to find where that was because I know ah I had to so at rank with first off there were no specialties um in second edition. At rank
One thing I
3, you
remember.
could re-roll one die. At
Hmm.
at rank 4, you could get two raises by declaring that you were rolling for 15s instead of 10s. And
Okay.
at rank 5, 10s explode.
Okay. Yeah, I just remember re-rolling a lot of dice in first edition.
Hmm.
Assuming that we played it correctly, I think that all tens always exploded. Um, at
Yeah, that
least
was
for
pretty much
heroes.
the case. That was also the case in L5R, where
Mm.
10s exploded by default. At higher tiers, you could have 9s and 10s explode.
Oh my goodness.
Um,
Okay.
but with specialties, I think the only thing that I'm concerned about is how specific specialties are going to be. If they're too specific,
Right.
that's going to be a problem.
I
Because,
remember specialties in first edition. You could make them up, basically.
which I'm fine with being able to make them up, but I'd prefer having uh, incon- some sort of indication of where the line is. And once again, this is where I'll
Sure.
bring up the one unique thing, which
Mm.
even though there's a wide amount of varieties that it can be because it isn't supposed to have a mechanical weight, they
Hmm.
do a two-page spread going into what are good or bad ideas for that.
Mm. Okay.
Yep. So, let's see, with advantages, there are special abilities, sometimes training, sometimes a contact. Um, Characters are going to have a varied amount of advantages, and they're going to be set in this book, but there's 4 categories. Passive, they always are activated. Situational, things that grant situational bonus dice. Heroic, you spend a hero point. And extraordinary, freebies that are only once per session. This
Okay.
kind of thing was in second edition where there were certain subtypes of advantages.
Hmm.
Uh, getting for exa- but it was mainly tags. Obviously, advantages had a point cost ranging from 1 to 5. An advantage that had a knack tag, you had to spend a hero. You had to spend a hero point to activate. Um,
Hmm.
and an innate tag meant you could only take it at hero creation.
Now I think I remember. Were there advantages in first edition? If there were, I don't remember them. I have to
There
admit.
were advantages and disadvantages in first.
Okay. What I remember is the backgrounds that you would get extra XP if your background came up.
Uh, I think that was more of a first edition thing. Backgrounds in second were essentially a starting package that gave you 1 point in 5 skills, gave you
Mm,
2 advantages for free, and
mm,
gave you a quirk where you could get a hero point if you did a certain thing.
okay.
You started with 2 advantages. Or not 2 advantages, you started with 2 backgrounds. Some of the backgrounds were basic, i.e., anybody could take them. Some of them were specifically tied to different nations.
Okay.
For example, you had to be from the Glamour Isles in order to take the Bard background.
Sure. Makes sense.
Uh, or if you wanted to take the Alchemista background, which one of the characters in our cast did, you had to be from Castile.
Yeah.
And I do wonder if the nation bonus thing is gonna carry over, where your nation gave you a +1 to one of potentially 2 traits. But
Yeah. We'll
that's
see. It that's that always, I didn't question it at the time. Now with a few decades more gaming experience, I'm like, okay, I'm not sure how much that makes sense for a whole nation to have +1 in one particular stat. But sure, you do you.
L5R
Guess
had
we'll.
that as well with the clans,
Yeah.
which I'd say with the clans it made sense. Like it makes sense that you would have some sort of boost to one of the physical stats if you're picking Crab Clan because they are constantly fighting against a literal hellhole and have for
Indeed.
about 1100 years.
Yeah. And the clans are like a much smaller because they represent like the samurai class, which is much smaller than than the population at large.
Mhm.
Um, I think it makes more sense. Whereas in a nation, you've got people from all different walks of life who are doing different things. It doesn't make sense to me, but I'm not gonna make a big issue of it if they have decided to go that route.
Yeah. The In second edition the approach was you could get a +1 to one of 2 traits. For
Mm,
example, Montaigne, you could get a +1 to either finesse or panache.
sure. So you could be a musketeer or a wily diplomat.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But with advantages with these subtypes, it feels like they're taking some elements of how advantages work in second edition and expanding on that. I don't think we're going to be dealing with the whole plus and minus setup, no min-maxing bullshit here.
Mm,
Uh,
yeah. I think we'll probably see when we get a look at the character sheets for sure.
mhm. But then we have combat aptitudes. Each
Mm,
hero has 5 of them that summarize how they fight and act in action scenes. Uh, you assign a different trait to each of these 5 combat aptitudes. Since each trait can only be used once, the 5 aptitudes are each linked to a different trait. Uh, you We do have a modular rule about assigning traits at the start of a scene, where you can freely assign traits to combat aptitude at the start of each action scene to reflect their current approach: cautious, aggressive, acrobatic, tactical, etc. Uh,
yeah, use some tokens for that or something.
what I see out of this is an evolution of the dueling system that was in second.
Ah, okay.
So this was a expansion on your combat actions, but it was only a duelist thing.
Mm,
There were a set of maneuvers that every duelist had, and each of the dueling schools had um one technique that was exclusive to them. Or one
sure.
each of the duelist styles. Each of them had their own style bonus. The maneuvers you could take um were slash, which instead of dealing damage like a normal attack, deals damage equal to your weaponry ranks.
Mm-hmm.
Parry, self-explanatory. You can prevent wounds. Um, Feint, you can You can deal 1 wound. If the target gets injured again in that round, they suffer an additional wound.
Hmm.
So feint is of course a setup. And lunge, which is a reckless maneuver. You spend all your raises, do a number of wounds equal to your ranks in weaponry plus your raises. Uh,
Yeah, it's much more mechanically dense than first edition was, where I don't even remember any of those particular. If there were mechanical advantages to any of the schools, I do not remember what they were, and for the most part, it didn't seem to matter in
yeah.
the end.
Um, there's also bash, which deals one wound, and when they try to deal wounds against you, they deal less wounds based on your weaponry skill.
Hmm.
And riposte, which lets you prevent a number of wounds equal to your ranks in weaponry and deal an amount of wounds equal to your weaponry. Um,
Hmm.
with each of these, um, you can apply up to I believe you could apply up to 2 maneuvers in the same round, but you couldn't use the same one twice.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
or I think the other thing was you had to have some separate maneuver between repeated ones. So you could
Okay.
you could do multiple maneuvers, but you couldn't do like slash back to back.
Sure.
Uh, and each style of dueling had a particular style bonus that was usually tied to a certain weapon.
Hmm.
Um, for example, let's see. Let's go with the good old Ice and Faust style. Broadsword and a Panzerhand in the offhand.
Indeed. Ah, the Panzerhand. I'd
Mm-hmm.
forgotten what they called a Vambrace, but that's an awesome name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is basically a broadsword and a iron glove. Oh, I
Yeah.
remember one of my friends interpreting it as a coal miner's glove, which I was like, this seems weird, but I'll allow it.
Sure.
Uh, I think the intent was to be something like an armored gauntlet,
Yeah.
but its style bonus is iron reply. You have a heavy weapon in one hand and a Panzerhand in the other. Your riposte is replaced with iron reply, which prevents a number of wounds equal to your ranks in resolve plus your ranks in weaponry. You
Hmm.
deal a number of wounds equal to your ranks in brawn plus weaponry. You can only do iron reply once per round.
Gotcha. So it's you're batting aside the it's kind of like a counterattack. You're batting aside the opponent's sword or weapon and then slashing with your own is what I get
Mm-hmm.
from that.
Either or pairing with your weapon and just punching them with the glove,
Yeah, yeah. Either way,
because an
you get the
iron
job
glove is
done.
still an iron glove.
Yeah.
uh, and
Mm.
I will always appreciate when games give the opportunity to vary up how one approaches combat instead of just I hit it with my sword. I
Sure.
I know with a game like this there could be the argument of, well, you can always do different narrations and stunts, and I'm like, you can, but at the end of the day you're still rolling it the same way as if you just said I hit him with my sword.
Yeah. Hmm. So
That is
change it up.
Yeah, that is why in games that have some sort of stunt system there's usually a mechanical weight to it. I think
Yeah.
combat aptitudes is gonna be, at least from what I'm seeing, their attempt at taking what was there for duelists in second edition and somewhat applying it broadly.
Mm.
I.e., so everybody has some sort of representative of their combat style, even if they're not a duelist.
Okay.
Though, given that, I have a feeling that if you are a duelist, you're going to get more out of combat aptitudes.
Yep.
But
Okay.
and in and in fact, we kind of have the answer here because there are variations on the core aspects based on
Hmm.
what attribute you're using. you could
Yep.
kind of see these as akin to the I see these akin to the approaches system that I saw in L5R fourth edition.
Hmm.
Not fourth edition, fifth. The one that was done that when FFG took over.
Okay.
Uh, where we have different variations of um, say the attack trait, which is going to give a particular flavor to how you choose to attack. No, brawn is brute force, finesse is precision and timing, panache is psychologically dominating. So I'm thinking of that one person who is very creative when it comes to vicious mockery,
Yep.
or like that one meme I put in the server the other day of your visage is so hideous. The last time you had a portrait done, it required neither hammer or nail as it hung itself.
There
Or
we go.
we all know that one swashbuckling character who is just a career rage baiter.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, you've got in a way like Captain Jack Sparrow is even a little bit like that.
Hmm.
He's kind of a weird dude that maybe he annoys you, maybe you just want to hit in the face.
Yeah, the only reason you can't is is because he's a slippery bastard. And well,
Yeah.
if
He's good
if
at
you
taunting.
if you the thing about those sort of roguish charm characters is that they should always have a long list of people who hate them.
Yes. And he certainly does.
Uh, to the I remember when that kind of thing happened with Gale in Thunderbolt Fantasy, and the joke was made:
Hmm.
if you got together everyone who Gale has screwed over or who hates him, you could hold a parade.
I've never seen that show. I mean, I know what it is and I know who's behind it. Earl Butcher, right? And it looks really interesting, but I just never got around to checking it out.
It is very good. I would not recommend watching the official sub on Crunchyroll or the like. Watch the fan subs.
Hmm.
Because for whatever reason,
Okay.
even though you're hearing a Japanese dub of it, the subs use the Taiwanese names,
Oh, weird.
which
That would feel like listening to like like a Crunchyroll or Netflix dub of JoJo almost. Not
I
dub,
have,
sub JoJo.
yeah, and I have looked at I remember when I was watching the dub of JoJo, and every time there was a name change regarding stands, I would end up bitching about it. I know why it's done, but that doesn't mean I have to like it.
Nope, you don't have to like it. And
Like
you can even hear them say like the original one because Japanese don't give a fuck. So
mhm.
apparently, so
like calling one of the vampires cool ice when it's supposed to be vanilla ice.
yeah. Oh, there were some pretty egregious ones. I can't remember. I can't remember. Oh, Jesus. There was like what was Red Hot Chili Pepper? It was something like it was like Red Hot something. I don't know. Just look it up, people online. You do the legwork. Don't make me go back and rewatch these bad subs.
Uh, I know one of the big ones that I got on was in Diamond as Unbreakable. Josuke's stand was called Shining Diamond.
Yes, so painful.
It is Crazy Diamond,
Crazy Diamond. Yep.
but they just called it and they just called it Chili Pepper,
Oh, they just called Chili Pepper. Okay,
which is kind of
fine.
lame.
Whatever. Lame.
But anyway, we have a similar thing when it comes to defense, where you assign a trait to defense to give it a certain flavor. Um,
Yep.
and also a similar thing when it comes to damage. Which they make clear is about how you strike. Uh, and a similar thing with toughness, how you take blows and shocks, which Defense is how you avoid getting hit. Toughness is how you take the hit.
Yeah, there's a similar dichotomy with attack and damage here.
Mm-hmm. Uh, Toughness determines how many minor wounds you can take before suffering a dramatic wound. Once you've taken a number of minor wounds equal to your toughness, the next box becomes a dramatic wound, and then the minor wound counter goes back to 0. This
Okay.
feels like a reincarnation of the death spiral thing that was in second edition, which I remember some saying that these death spiral felt like it was overly penalizing, where you take any, because of the lower die pools, you take any bit of damage and it's going to affect you dramatically.
Yeah.
I had always house ruled it that every time you get a dramatic wound, you get an additional die to roll. But if you fill out all your dramatic wounds, you are helpless and taken out of the scene.
Yes. Now I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing anything here that says that suffering a dramatic wound does anything here, though.
Mm-mm.
It seems like it just builds up until you take that dramatic wound, and if all your wounds are filled up, then you're out.
But
Am I reading that right?
we'll double check that when it comes to how dramatic wounds are actually going to work later. But
Okay.
you have a similar thing for movement. So essentially, you have, let's see, 3, 4. You have 5 elements to your combat aptitudes, which means you're going to be assigning one of each trait to one of these.
Yep.
And I do wonder if that's going to cascade into other elements.
It feels like it should build to something for sure.
Because I don't want this to be just flavor. But
Yeah.
so this
Agreed.
isn't exactly the duelist thing that I thought it was, but I do appreciate the foundation here.
Yeah.
Then equipment is next, which they are doing the lighter approach to equipment, which I'm fine with. If you're going to be doing this kind of dramatic hero, then tracking equipment weight would be a terrible idea.
Indeed. It's not part of the. It's really not part of the fantasy of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not a survival game. It's not. You're not meant to limit what you can, or limitations that you put on yourself through encumbrance would just bog down the gameplay in this particular case.
Mm-hmm. But there are a couple exceptions. The range of a weapon, which determines range and what skill you can use. There's no damage bonus if you're using firearms.
Okay.
Which I appreciate. Otherwise, you'd end up with a case where firearms would be too useful.
Indeed.
But sometimes there can be advantages in with masterwork weapons. I remember before I had to cut it off, there was one ghost story we ended up doing where our quartermaster had found a sword that took a liking to them.
Okay.
It's certainly it was a powerful sword, and it can cut spirits, but it also won't leave their side.
Okay.
Like the only time it isn't attached to them is when they're asleep.
Okay.
And even
that could be that could make romance difficult, I'll say.
Yeah, basically the sword is somewhat sentient and is charged with protecting its user.
It takes that very seriously.
On the other hand, if someone tried to sneak up and attack its user, it would just unsheath itself and block. But then we get to the system proper. I do like that they make clear if failure has no interesting consequence, don't roll dice. I.e., don't roll
Yeah.
dice for anything, roll dice when there's an actual risk of failure.
Yeah. No, absolutely. This should be the rule in pretty much any game you play.
Mm-hmm. Uh, but for first off, you're building your die pool, which is choosing a relevant trait and skill. So we are much like in second edition, we're still doing the whole thing of it's not set in stone what trait and skill combo you have to use for certain actions.
Sure.
Uh, you're grabbing a number of d10s. The GM determines the difficulty, which is going to be from 1 to 7. Uh, the the you're going to be rolling all die and keeping all die that meet or exceed the keep threshold. So we are back to roll and keep instead of focusing on raises.
Yes.
So the keep threshold is based on skill rate, is based on the skill rating.
Seems you can get it down to 4 if you fill all those skills up.
Yep. Um, one of the criticisms of the roll and keep system was when you're keeping a certain amount of die based on at the time the attribute. There's the question of why invest points in skills when you're gonna get a additional die to roll and keep if you just focus on attributes.
Mm-hmm.
I think here the question has been answered in the sense that with skills, you're gonna be doing that more easily. With attributes, there's more potential avenues that you can take.
Yes.
That seems to be the direction we're going here. Uh,
You
and
know, it's
it
intuitive and easy to uh reason. I like that there's a separate reason to have high skills, right?
yeah.
Um, yeah.
They even answered this in the sidebar, stating, basing the keep threshold on skills is a deliberate design choice. A hero has 5 traits and 21 skills. Statistically, traits would be used more often. If skills had no strong mechanical impact beyond adding dice, it'd almost always be better to invest primarily in traits because they are called for more frequently during play. By tying the keep threshold to skills, we increase their practical usefulness and add their weight in character building. Raising a skill doesn't just mean rolling more dice. It also gives you a better chance to accumulate successes. So they pretty
Okay.
much went into the same approach that I did.
Yeah. It's nice to see when the seasoned folks make a similar choice to you. I encountered that when we were covering Broken Lands, that recently, the last time we did the one shots.
Yeah.
Yeah, with their whole I came up with a similar system to them and was very pleased about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to when we get Broken Lands a bit more because I really enjoy the more Kakian approach that it's taking.
Yeah.
But then you interpret the result. If you kept as many die as the difficulty, it's a success. Otherwise, it's a failure. That is an interesting. So instead of difficulty being a hard and fast number you've got to beat, if you've got if you've got the die, it is a success.
Okay.
So I think you're rolling to see the degree of success in that case.
Indeed, and I see in the chart for the result, you've got, if you roll only one success, it's like you barely made it. If you roll 7, it's a mythic success that people will remember and talk about.
Mm-hmm. But extra successes give hero points. Each extra success gives you 1 hero point, so this means it's going to be a lot easier to get hero points in this edition than it has been in the past.
Yeah.
And I feel like much like what happened with Shadowrun 6th edition, hero points are meant to be a momentum rather than a get out of jail card.
Yeah.
So if you spend hero points on a roll, any successes beyond the difficulty don't generate new hero points. So you can't get an infinite loop here, folks. Sorry. Uh, if you fail an action, you can force fate. The action becomes a success, but the GM gains villainy points equal to the number of missing successes.
Okay.
Which villainy points, I think, much like in second, I think is going to be the resource that the GM can use to make your life interesting.
Yep. I assume it's well. I don't know what villainy points can do in second ed. I just remember that you with the GM got a certain number of drama dice in first edition equal to the number of players, like +2 or something.
Yeah. In second edition, um, villains had a there was a certain number of points that um that was basically the GM equivalent to the hero dice. Not
Yeah.
hero dice, hero points, I should say. Uh, I'm tr- I am trying to find where I had that.
Hmm.
Uh, Here it is. So obviously GM rules, the whole brute squad thing, which is just the equivalent of mooks. So
Yep. At the next page, we have what villainy points and hero points
yeah,
are going to do for us in third edition.
yeah. What I was looking for was the equivalent in second, and that was influence, which was a villainous thing that they could do. Um,
Okay. Okay.
they could spend it to hire another villain, employ a brute squad, convince a hero's ally to betray them, bribe an
Ooh.
official, discover a rival NPC's identity, discover a rival hero's identity, find a secret location, or escape a scene.
Okay.
And villains only really had two stats: strength and influence.
Okay. So yeah, they had it was not what do I want to say symmetrical.
hmm Which I'm fine with. Uh, I've never been the biggest fan of the notion of you build NPCs in the exact same way you build PCs. That's
Sure.
one of those
Yeah,
early 2000s things I don't miss.
indeed. I remember that being a big thing in third edition where if you wanted an NPC, you had to spend like, you had to get really good at the character creation system. If you thought that NPC was going to be engaged in combat at all.
Wait, third edition?
Sorry, of D&D.
Yeah,
Sorry, yeah.
although there it is kind of funny that we saw a game in 1995 have NPC creation when we
Mm,
covered Okahoshin, and that's something that
yeah.
D&D even now wants to drag its feet about.
Uh-huh.
But
Oh boy.
hero points represent the ability to push past your limits. So this is why I call it an extra effort rule. Um,
Mm,
Villainy points are a villainous currency. So for hero points, you can add 1d10 to the pool. You can add 3d10 to an ally's pool if you're actively helping them. You
oh
can
wow.
activate an advantage. These are the ones that will call for hero points.
Yep.
+1 damage. Keep acting even while out of action. Or for 5 points, perform a legendary feat.
Mm,
I think the legendary feats are akin to certain advantages we saw earlier, which those ones you can only do once per session.
okay.
But given
Hmm,
that, it makes sense that you're able to get hero points a lot more easily here. And it's best to
yes.
use them because at the end of a session, any unspent hero points are lost.
Use them or lose them, folks. No,
Mm.
No hoarding the mega elixir with this system.
Yep. When you spend 5 hero points, you can trigger a legendary feat. All your dice are treated as successes.
Wow.
Uh,
Okay.
mhm. So then, with villainy points, they can spend them to add an obstacle to the scene, add a complication that increases the action's difficulty by 1, activate a villain's advantage, in +1 to a wound the hero would take, keep a villain acting while out of action, or bring in a brute squad with a level equal to the number of villainy points spent.
Yeah.
Uh, then Testy's saying, is this edition far less cursed than second edition? I don't think second edition was cursed. You
You
had...
know, time and experience are going to have to tell on this one, I think.
Mhm.
Though we, of course, can make our some determinations, perhaps, with this quick start.
Yeah. Oh, they do talk about some suggestions on using villainy points. They recommend playing with them visible, which I'm perfectly fine with, since if you have villainy points hidden, then you could put forward the idea that the villains are that the villainy points are just ass pulls. And by putting it in front of the table, everybody knows how many points the GM has and the likelihood that they're going to use them.
I think that I
Because...
would. I think that I would like set down a die in the middle of the table or like
Mhm.
outside the GM screen each time it happens, and then like play with them a little bit as the players are, you know, considering actions of what they're going to do next.
Mhm.
Have fun with it.
Yeah, pretty much. Uh, and I think one of the things I'm curious about is if you're rolling a set number and trying to keep this. What I'm trying to figure out is why the die would be rolled. Are you just rolling for explode? But I think
Sorry.
actually I misread it. So you are rolling attribute plus skill. Each die that meet the keep threshold, which is based on the skill rating,
Okay.
is a success. So it isn't a case of roll and keep like it was before. The keep threshold um is how many is basically the a hit threshold. Um,
Yes.
so I see where it's going here.
Yeah.
You're supposed to shade in the individual numbers, and that determines the keep threshold.
Yep.
I.e., each individual D10 has to roll that number or higher in order to count as a kept die.
And if you've got nothing in the skill, then it's a 9 or 10.
Yep. Uh, and hello there, Yuya. Hope you're enjoying your night so far. So now that I know that, I have a better understanding of how this die setup is going to work, and
Mm-hmm.
it is more of a hit based approach.
Yep.
I am curious if raises are going to come back.
Oh, chases.
No, raises.
Raises. Okay, I thought you said races.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was like, did he mean chases? No.
No.
I mean, I think chases will probably play. There'll probably be a system for chases in the system, or we'll see. I guess
Mm-hmm.
maybe not in this quick start though.
Yeah. Now, then they go into dramatic scenes, which are described as either simple, opposed, or extended. Simple actions are exactly what it sounds like. You're rolling versus a target number. Opposed is also self-explanatory. Uh, which they talk about successes. I think they mean the capped dice in that sense.
Yeah,
Uh,
they didn't call them successes in the keep threshold stuff.
yeah, so I think that may have been just a good old artifact. But the extended actions, which are going to be more complex ones, uh, the yeah, the number of successes that's required is set up by the GM. Uh, After each roll, you add the number of successes they obtain to the die that's compared to the threshold. When you beat the GM's die, the objective is achieved. So you're basically trying to get a certain number of successes as quickly as possible.
Yep.
And of course, you can force fate. Uh,
Could give the GM a lot of villainy points that way.
mhm. uh, and they do talk about action scenes, which the approach that's done here is very much akin to second edition, uh, especially with the fact that only players roll dice, opponents do not roll. Uh,
Okay.
and then we have the attack actions, which instead of it being contested, the difficulty of the roll is the target's defense aptitude.
Hmm.
Uh, if they succeed, then they calculate how many wounds they're dealing.
Hmm.
This applies automatically. You can spend hero points to add more. Advantages could add more, and the total is the amount of wounds inflicted. And it seems the baseline for wounds is going to be whatever trait was chosen when it came to the combat picks we talked about earlier. So the example they give has the trait linked to result, the link trait being resolve. So when dealing damage, they do 2 damage because that's their resolve. They can spend hero points to do more.
Okay.
So once again, I get the sense that you're going to be gaining hero points easily, and you're going to be encouraged to spend them quickly.
Okay. So definitely feels like maybe there's a place to like track them on the character sheet. I guess we'll see.
Hmm.
Um,
Worst
feels
case
like
scenario
a
is they
good
can
way.
just break out the bennies.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah.
Hmm. So the the villains or brute squads do not roll for defense. You do when you're being attacked. You would roll based on the defense aptitude plus the relevant skill. Um, so this is again the trait that you're using to defend was determined when you did those combat picks. Um,
Yep.
the difficulty is based on the attacker's attack aptitude, and of course you're trying to get a certain amount of successes. When you suffer wounds, it is the way that's mentioned. Eventually, you can take a dramatic wound, uh, which as long as you have at least one dramatic wound, you add +1 die to your die pool per dramatic wound.
Okay.
They suggest using die of a different color. Wound dice explode,
Okay.
but if a wound dice shows a 1, you are defenseless until your next turn.
Well, that's okay.
Hmm.
So you've just the wound has gotten to you. You're in pain, um, or something like that. You're off balance, and
Hmm.
yeah, not good.
Yeah. Uh, If you take 4 dramatic wounds, you're full defenseless. You can only act by spending. They call it heroism point, but it's basically a hero point.
Yeah.
Uh,
Wait, where's okay? Yeah.
but the And of course, you do have other actions like movement. You do have healing after an action scene. Um, you can heal minor wounds during an action scene, but you can't heal dramatic wounds during an action scene. Uh, with minor wounds, that is movement plus science. I believe movement would be. Let me check if that was one of the combat traits.
It was. It was the
Yes.
last one in the list. Yeah.
So that is something you have to keep in mind. Every success you roll heals 1 wound,
Mm.
though you can only give first aid to a given character once per action scene, so don't waste it.
Yep.
Um, outside of action scenes, you can heal dramatic wounds. Every 2 successes heals 1 dramatic wound.
Mm.
Uh, of course, we have 3 tiers of opponents. We have Brute Squad, your mooks, Henchmen, your lieutenants, and villains, which are, well, villains.
Yep. And same since first edition. This was always the setup for antagonists.
Hmm. Getting rid of a brute squad is an extended action with the difficulty based on the number of brutes in it. Um, with henchmen, uh, they're described as having a name, traits, skills, and combat aptitudes. They may have advantages. At They're basically like characters, but they get taken out after 2 dramatic wounds.
Yep. Sounds familiar, and these guys they probably have a name, but it might be something like Grunt or the Pain Inflictor or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And villains are meant to be the equivalent of heroes. And in second edition, this wasn't exactly the case. You did have brutes, henchmen, and villains, but instead of villains having a full setup, everybody had the strength and influence stats exclusively.
Okay.
But then they go into an example action. Then we get the Death to the King adventure, which, as I mentioned, we're going to be skipping, though I appreciate the scene-based design. And we're going to go straight into looking at the pre-gens.
Yes.
So let me zoom in a little bit. So the pre-gens start on page 26.
Yep, I'm there.
So the personal details, we have the traits. Then we kind of see how the trait and skill relationship is going to go. So
Yes.
if you got nope, this is basically the the roll up to hit kind of approach that you'd see in maybe the 40K war game, or even or just any of the Warhammer war games, where you're rolling a number of dice and you're trying to get a number of hits. So
Yes.
if you have no points in a skill, you have only 9s and 10s are going to hit. Actually, I think only 10s. If you've got a point, no, actually no, I take that back, because it's the highest unfilled circle.
Yeah, that's why the 4 is at the end without being circled.
Yeah, so 1 point, so 1.8, 0 points, 9s, then 7, 6, 5, and 4. It took me a second to grasp what they were doing, but I think I got it. And any die that roll that number or higher are counted as successes. So you are dealing with this roll high with an expanding threshold. And as mentioned before, I think it was hinted at before, if you've got a specialty, then it explodes.
Yeah.
It explodes on 10s. So because of, and I think the check here is meant to indicate, might be meant to indicate if you've got a specialty. Uh, I do.
Yeah, it seems like it. I don't know. I don't see what those specialties are though.
Uh, I don't. I think the approach that they're taking is it. What the specialty is doesn't matter, but what matters is you are specialized in the skill.
Okay. Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. There. I see what you're saying. Because the specialties are the ones that explode.
Hmm.
Okay.
So this means that oddly enough, skills are going to be more are going to have a much wider impact than traits, but you are
Yeah.
going to be using traits more often. Uh,
I'm interested to know whether the it's going to be too much in the direction of making skills more powerful.
mhm.
You know, I guess it depends on what the XP costs are for bumping them.
On the other hand, traits are going to be a big damn deal when you're dealing with combat because
Oh yeah,
of what we mentioned before.
with the
Uh,
combat aptitudes.
yeah, I will be interested to see how what impact archetype, nation of origin, background, and languages have. It looks like we only have one background instead of two this time. Um, though the archetype is also the name of one of the advantages, so there's that too. We do have a blank spot for combat aptitudes. And when it comes to advantages, some of them, some of them, some of them are going to be using are going to be using other are using the same keyword thing that we see here, like firearm specialist. When you're using aim and armed with a pistol or a musket, tens explode.
Yep.
So the universal explosion thing isn't going to. It doesn't look like it's going to be here, but there are ways to make it so that die can explode.
Yep. So you basically, it sounds like the firearm specialty or the firearm. Yeah, it's just another specialty. Is what it sounds like
Mm-hmm. Yep.
with a pistol or musket.
Mm-hmm. And we do have three ones that are one-offs. Though you don't have to spend hero points for them, but you can only do them once.
Yeah.
Altruistic, you can suffer a harmful effect in place of another character. Officer, you can cut through chaos with a brief order, ending a state of fear, panic, or disorganization with an action that automatically succeeds.
Hmm.
And unfortunate, once per game, you can get one hero point when you choose to fail an important roll without rolling the dice.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that would make for some fun descriptions on the
Mm-hmm.
GM's part.
Yep. It is kind of interesting that I'm not sure. I'm not sure how far along these characters are, but the second sample character we have already has panache maxed out.
Yeah,
Uh,
the diplomat, right?
mm-hmm.
So there we go.
Yeah. When it comes to and Mallory here has finesse maxed out, so maybe it is possible to max out a trait, but
Hmm.
that doesn't mean you're going to have a massive advantage. And because of the
No.
way combat aptitudes are going to work, regardless of where you put them in, you're going to have things you're good at and things you're not.
Yes.
Uh, I do like the return of cast iron stomach.
Oh, where did you see that?
Page 30.
Page 30. Okay. Oh, right. You went. Okay. Yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Drink them as much as you like. Never get drunk. All right.
Uh, but when it comes, let's see, when it comes to Hans Mueller, a idealist soldier, it looks like. So we do have the duelist styles once again. It looks like they
Oh
are
yeah.
they are a advantage. In this case, they've trained at the Kummerholt Academy and learned the Death Knell maneuver. When you use it, you fight without regard for your own safety to bring down powerful enemies quickly. You must wield a small blade, spend 1 hero point to rush your opponent and pepper them with stabs. They suffer wounds equal to your melee ranks plus your highest trait. These wounds cannot be avoided or prevented in any way. However, during your reaction, you cannot defend yourself. Any attack against you gains an automatic success.
So it's basically training you to just go psycho.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I can't say that's going to be ineffective against most people.
But it looks like there's this. It looks like there's a similar amount of advantages. We've seen one one passive advantage, one die boost, a few hero points, and a few epics. Is what I'm calling them.
The once per game ones, yeah.
Yeah. I know they say once per game, but I believe that's the equivalent of a per session ability.
I think that's what they're meaning. Once per game session. Not the word I would have used, but I think I believe that's what they mean.
Well, English is not Studio Agat's first language.
True.
But then we also have a quick reference for Sorte Strega magic. It does require a tarot deck available, whether it be the 7th C one or just any tarot deck.
Okay.
Do you need to hide to use Fate magic? As long as the Strega only reads the threads, her powers are invisible. As soon as she touches the threads, others may notice something. If you want to stay discreet, you have to do a difficulty 1 stealth roll when using Minor Arcana, and difficulty 2 when using Major Arcana. Of course, if no one is watching the witch, or if it's too chaotic for people to notice her, then no roll is necessary. But to read the threads, you can do so with Wits plus Sorcery. The difficulty is based on the number of targets you're trying to read. To see the links between two people, difficulty 3. It may increase if the target is protected by another Strega. So you can learn the links between people and a person's Arcana. As long as you only read the threads without touching them, sorcery is free.
Okay.
At the start of the game, you draw as many cards as your sorcery rank. Each time you use one, you draw a new card. At any time, you can spend 1 hero point to change all or part of the hand. Minor Arcana let the Strega optimize the information gained from reading to grant bonuses. They can be triggered at the cost of 1 hero point or 1 backlash, always before the dice roll. We'll probably see what backlash is later. Once used, the card is discarded and you draw a new one. Minor Arcana are tied to skills determined by the suit of the card. So, cups, i.e. hearts, athletics, empathy, sailing, theology, science. Swords, melee, stealth, intrigues, persuasion, survival. Batons, aim, engineering, theft, protocol, performance. Coins, legends, humanities, investigation, strategy, self-control. So basically one skill for each category. The card's number determines the effect. On a 1 to 2, they get to roll 1 additional die on that skill. 3 to 4, they can re-roll their dice. Got to keep the new result. 5 to 6, the difficulty of the next roll is reduced by 1. If it goes to 0, it's an automatic success. 7 to 8, you get an additional hero point from your roll. Minimum 1 if it's a success, plus more depending on extra successes. 9 to 10, the keep threshold of the target's next roll is reduced by 1. So essentially it's giving you an extra skill point without actually giving you an extra skill point.
Right.
If it's a page or a knight, you can re-roll 10s. Which sounds like a bad thing, but remember, normally 10s would be automatic misses.
Yeah.
They only explode when you've got something that lets them. Uh, if you use a queen, the target's skill is increased by 1 rank. So one die rolled and keep threshold reduced by 1. And king, the effects of the next minor arcana used by the Strega are doubled.
Okay.
So with a 5 of wands, you can reduce the difficulty of an ally's next aim roll by 1. But if you were using a king and then using a 5 of wands, I think the difficulty reduction would be 2, based on how they're
Yes.
describing it. You just have to make sure the skill that is being used matches. But major arcana are significantly more powerful. They always cost 1 hero point and 1 backlash. Again, I want to see what backlash is. And once you use it, the card's discarded. So minor arcana can get shuffled back. Major arcana, it's a one-off. And it looks like the major theme with the major arcana is automatically succeeding. Like, for example, the duel, they automatically succeed at a martial action regardless of difficulty.
Oh, but look at the Emperor. That's a little different.
Oh yeah. The GM cannot spend villainy points until the end of the scene. Ouch.
Yep.
And then now we get to backlashes. When a Strega uses her powers, she must spend a hero point and or take a backlash, depending on whether the Arcana played is major or minor. Fate does not appreciate the Streg's meddling, and it always collects what it's owed. For each backlash, the Sorte Strega must remove 1 die from her hand when she makes a roll. At any time, the Strega may choose to pay in blood to remove a backlash, suffering 1 wound per backlash you want to remove.
Oof.
So you can do a lot of crazy stuff with Sorte Strega, but every time you do it, you are pushing your luck.
Yeah, definitely. This is I always thought of it as a very powerful sorcery, but one that even in first edition there was I think the concept of backlash was there. So I don't remember how it worked exactly. Some of these sorceries are kind of a little bit disturbing, like especially Porte, which almost brings in like a cosmic horror aspect to the
Oh
setting.
yeah.
Yeah.
There was definitely that where a Porte Sorcier was used for the adventure we were running, and
Yeah.
and I pulled an Indiana Jones by saying, when we go through, no matter what happens, keep moving forward, don't stop, and keep your eyes shut.
Yep.
And
Gotta do it. You're gonna go nuts otherwise.
there was a full caravan that went in. Only 1 carriage came out.
All open their eyes, huh?
Either open because, and the whole time they're going through the path, you hear and feel you hear things around you, screams, sounds that you should not hear, and almost feel things touching you.
Yep.
Just to tempt you into looking.
Yep. And yeah, I think it was eventually revealed in the lore that those were like the remnants of the Sirneth, right? Which were the people that came before humans in Thea.
Yeah.
That's what I recall. Anyway, I could be wrong about that.
So all of that said, before I get into my thoughts on it, what do you think of what we've seen in this quick start for 7th C 3rd edition?
Well, I'm very curious as to the XP cost. That's going to be kind of where I think it could make or break it. You could make a character that is very quickly becomes very powerful if you min max into just one of your favorite skills, right? And getting with rolling d10 and getting successes on fours, if you get all the way up to 5 dots, wow. I'm gonna have to see that it's gonna take some doing to
Hmm.
bump up those skills.
Yeah. Second
Um,
edition didn't do an XP system, but this narrative path thing, which was a cute idea, but it didn't have much in the way of guidance. The idea is you get an
yeah,
advancement when you get to the next step in your particular story arc, but
okay,
the guidance for it was kind of lacking, and I remember saying that in my review.
okay. Well, I mean, I have to like, given that this game feels like it's got a little bit more of a system behind it. I mean, that was a big critique we always had of first edition, was that there wasn't much of a system, right? It was a game, it was a storytelling game first and foremost, and it was very good at that. It was very good at getting people into the headspace of playing a swashbuckling hero, of having these big moments, of having these story arcs. We really loved that about it. But at the end of the day, characters kind of ended up being a lot the same. Um, Maybe we weren't playing it right, but that was what we ran into. I think that that does not seem to be the case here. I mean, a lot of these characters don't even seem to have, like, for instance, Hughes, the Montan diplomat, doesn't even have much martial skill at all. Which I'm interested to see how he would play out in, like, an action scene. There's probably things that he can do, just not hitting somebody with a sword is one of them most likely. Although he does
Hmm.
have a couple in melee. What else can I say here? The I would be interested to play it. It's a system that is one of the games in general, I should say, that got me interested in the swashbuckling genre. I started playing it very soon after Pirates of the Caribbean 1 came out, and that was kind of like the year of the pirate when that happened.
Hmm.
Everyone wanted to play pirates drinking games. Everybody wanted to um, go as Captain Jack Sparrow for Halloween, and
I
people
remember playing
were into
Liar's
this.
Dice with the family around that time.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. Just that kind of stuff. And so I have a lot of fondness for the system, or for the game itself. I've taken a lot of things, well, maybe not a lot of things, but several important things have sort of been put into Skies of Fortune, that I originally had ideas for with 7C. Um, all in all, I would look forward to playing this. Um, that's where my bias lies. So I think I would give it a go.
Hmm.
I'll back it with this. I'll do it. We'll see what. And I don't think they're gonna let me down.
Yep.
What do you think?
So, as somebody who has a bit of experience with both first and second edition, what I see in this is a marriage of elements between the two.
Yeah,
Second edition was a bit of a stronger attempt to try and make a more codified system, and
yeah,
there were some that didn't like the fact that there weren't as many skills and whatnot. As I've mentioned before, I have a problem when a game decides that it needs a bunch of skills that are extremely situational.
yeah. We talked a little bit about this off stream, and I agree with that. And especially in first edition, like the profession based skill packages often ended up being not terribly. A lot of them ended up being not terribly useful.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of I use rope in D&D third edition has been my whipping boy for that kind of thing, because how often are you going to
Um,
actually use that in a given
yeah.
session?
You just throw in a grappling hook into athletics, I guess, and call it good. Um, but you're right; it's not going to get used that much. Um,
Mhm.
in skies, we use rope checks go under the sailing category because who knows how to use a rope better than a sailor, right?
Yeah, with a skill category, you essentially have an umbrella of skills that can be that or skill actions that can be used. And I tried to have a similar approach with the 7 skills that I have in Legend Edition,
Hmm.
and I do remember when I was on that Q&A with Random Worlds and the question of, well, if somebody wanted to roll science, how would they do that? And my approach was they would use the knowledge check.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
like if they're doing something specifically for some specific field of science, that'd still be under knowledge, or it would be something else that the GM calls for. Which in that case, you're
Indeed.
reaching a situationalness that I am not interested in following
Sure.
because I don't care for this idea of accounting for every single potential action or activity because you're never going to
I'm
win
with you.
that.
Yeah.
But I see several. One of the things that's going to be very interesting is how it handles advantages. I
Hmm.
have a feeling it's going to be a similar 5 point thing. I will be very interested to see how career packages work, the background packages,
Yeah.
because the last thing that I would want is, oh, you've got X amount of points, go nuts. I know some people would like that freeformness, but that would create more problems than it's worth.
And the archetype that seems to come with it too, because you've got sort of two different levels there, right? You've got, I guess, your heroic archetype, your dramatic archetype. That's how I read it,
Mm-hmm.
and then your characters, what are where your character has been, how they were raised.
Yeah. Uh, I do think that I think that the approach to roll and keep that's used here is an interesting success-based approach compared to
Mhm.
what's been done before, where it was a sum.
Yeah.
I think it also means that you don't have those weird situations where you've got maybe 10 dice and you roll nothing but twos and threes, so you end up failing a roll that you should have passed.
Yeah.
Uh, one of the big things that I think is going to get brought up is how much more easy it is to get and spend hero points for both hero and villain. I feel like
Yes.
this was something that was intended in second, but because the main way you'd get it was by playing to your quirk, which could result in some problems depending on how people build their characters, or hero points just not getting used, uh,
Right.
it created a bit of an issue. But really, the big make or break is going to be how it handles advancement. I don't think a straight XP system is the way to go, but I also don't think the story arc system that was done in second edition is the way to go either.
Mm.
Uh,
When I think of these dot systems, that I usually, another thing that springs to mind is like other previous editions of World of Darkness,
mhm.
which, the ones that I played did have an XP system. It was like, if you were going to do a new trade, it would be like 5 XP times the next dot. If you're going to do a skill, 3 XP times the new dot. Stuff like that. So that's the first thing that comes to mind when I think of something like this. But what are you thinking? Like, what should the DM award or GM award? Like a new dot? I guess that'd be the most of what seems like the only thing you really can level up would be the traits and skills. I don't know if there's a way to add more advantages or what, but maybe you could
Yeah.
add some of those too.
Um, I have a personally the approach that I've always taken is awarding things based on milestones and being a reflection of how players acted during the campaign.
Oh, okay.
I.e., if they were doing really well in the tavern fight, I'll probably give them a additional die to weaponry. Uh,
Yeah.
when it comes to XP as currency, uh, the problem that I often have with that is when you have to just build it up in order to get the thing that you actually want, meaning you
Hmm.
may go several sessions without any forward movement while everyone else has forward movement.
Hmm.
It's not as bad as the different levels of XP bullshit that was in early D&D, where everybody but one character levels up during some sessions.
Right.
But
I see where you're coming from there. It's more potentially it's more fun
mhm,
to be able to have that immediate sort of gratification.
yeah,
Um, if
I think
you
a better approach for something like 7th C would be the advancement check that you see in basic role playing.
mm, what are you? Oh, like this, like Call of Cthulhu does it. That's what I'm kind of thinking of, where you try and roll over the skill that you use during the session, and if you do, then you like get a certain number of extra points in that skill.
Yeah,
Okay.
essentially you with that system, it's easy to get new skills at a low level, but
Hmm.
it's harder to master them.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
I could easily see doing an approach of for each skill that you use, roll a d20. If it's over the key threshold, then you can increase that skill by 1 point. It does mean that there's risks of not being able to advance, but I think that would encourage more skill variety rather than doubling down on a few skills, which is a common temptation.
Yeah. I would definitely feel that temptation with this system.
Uh, and I think a variety of skills should be encouraged instead of putting everything in a few baskets.
I do notice it doesn't seem that any of these characters have any skills more than three. So, I mean, we do have a few traits that are up to four, but it does seem as though maybe at character creation they cap at three.
Mm-hmm. And they did cap at 3 in second. Like I
Hmm.
said, what I see a lot of with third edition is this marriage of elements between first and second edition,
Mm.
which
Yeah, I see that too. Though I did not hear the phrase dramatized at any point in here, and that's perhaps for the best. We do have hero points, though. It's essentially what what dramatized have become over a
we
few
we
iterations.
kind of have drama dice in the form of the extra dice you get from dramatic wounds.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So the more dramatic wounds you take, the more dangerous you get for a little while there.
Mm-hmm. On the other hand, if you roll ones on those dramatic die, you can screw yourself over.
Yeah.
So there is still that motif of pushing your luck with dramatic wounds.
Yep.
But I like what I see. I do hope in an update in the future we get a feel for advancements. I do also
Yep.
remember, and I did talk with you about this off stream when we got the first announcement of this, that they were planning some sort of aspect system. I think what is intended with that is what they were kind of doing with the Price of Arrogance and what they kind of do with Fate Forge.
Okay.
You know, giving a bit of guidance to what heroic archetypes or backgrounds would better fit certain tones.
Right.
Because
Okay.
there are certain there are certain tones of fantasy that 7th C can lean into depending on where the adventure is and what kind of characters are involved.
Sure, especially if you have a bunch of sorcerers in the party.
Hmm. Or if you're having it take place in certain areas, a campaign in Montaigne is going to have a different feel than a campaign in Avalon.
Yeah, lots of Fae in Avalon.
Hmm.
Got a whole nother section of politics and you know illusion weirdness to deal with there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'd imagine that the way to get into magic in this system is going to be through the advantages.
It does look like
Same
it.
thing with dueling. Um,
Yeah.
but
And I think based on these characters, it looks like they are trying to make it so that you can have a workable character that is one, not like some kind of, you know, martial savant, or two, and you can also have one who has almost nothing in the martial skills at all and still be useful, which
mhm.
I like. I like to have that kind of thing. Admittedly, that is not the kind of game that I have made, but I'd like to see it. I like to see it out there.
Oh yeah. I am curious what is going to be intended with them jumping the timeline forward a few years. Which, if that's the case, it's going to be very interesting times for Montaigne. Because
Indeed, we're going to be right in the middle of the revolution.
yeah, which I don't think I don't think a Montaigne revolution is going to play out exactly the same way as the real world French Revolution. I think
Sure.
it's I wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing like a Montaigne civil war or something like that.
Yeah, I mean I mean, I guess that is kind of essentially what it was, right? The revolution.
Hmm.
Um, because it's not like they were revolving against some foreign power. It was against their own royalty and entrenched nobility.
Hmm. Oh yeah, and
But maybe you'll take the side of the revolutionaries. I mean, I think that would be the obvious side to take, because their Napoleon counterpart, who was like a peasant hero, basically, not like nobility like Napoleon was. I don't remember what his name was,
mhm,
but he was meant to be a man of the people, and he
mhm,
was he was he was categorized as a hero, at least in first edition.
yeah,
Whereas
um,
Emperor Leon was a villain. So
yeah. The approach that I've taken when it came to doing a Montaigne revolution in some of my campaigns was uh, not making it seem like the revolutionaries were 100% the good guys, and in a few cases had it that while they had while they had a decent idea, the execution was a bit overkill.
sure.
Like I think in one case the party had to deal with a revolutionary who was trying to take down the castle, but in the process his little stunt was going to take down some of the farmland too.
Yeah. It's not. It's probably it's a good. It's a good way to insert drama into it to put those things in. But when it comes to war, it's never going to be simple. Never going to be
Hmm.
cut and dried.
Yeah. I wanted to avoid the temptation that I think some people might have of going revolutionaries bad, revolutionaries good, royals bad, universally.
Sure.
I did a similar thing with a Firefly campaign with after the events of Serenity, a new group of anti-alliance rebels called the Dust Devils showed up. The
Mm,
problem is their methods were a bit much,
right.
to the point where the to any surviving brown coat basically disassociated with them.
Yeah. Um.
But I'm getting ahead of myself. I think overall, I'd say I'd say I like what I'm seeing out of third edition, and the fact that we
Yeah.
want to see more of some of its mechanics is a good sign.
Yes. The fact they if they wanted to hook us with this Kickstarter, I would say a mission accomplished.
Mhm.
Or at least
I do think some of the text could use a bit of an editing pass. We did see some
oh,
weird stuff that threw
definitely.
us off.
I noticed a few times they put in athleticism instead of athleticism, um, or athletics.
Hmm.
Definitely the English version of this feels a little rushed, but it is just a quick start. So I guess I'll give them give them some give them a bit of leeway.
Yeah, it is a quick start, and there's the fact that this quick start came from. Because keep in mind, the third edition project has only been announced for a few days. Like it hasn't been up there for very long.
No. When did you ping me about this originally? Like last Thursday or Friday? It
Yeah,
wasn't too long ago.
it was 4 days ago. I
Yeah.
pinged you about it the same day that it was announced, and
Yeah.
and it was announced, I think 2 weeks ago.
Okay. Well,
So
geez.
things were moving pretty fast. But all that being said, I definitely look forward to seeing more of this. If a updated version of this quick start comes, I don't think we're going to be doing something like this because the changes aren't going to be enough to warrant it.
Yeah, would agree with that.
Uh, and I also think that if unless there is some massive change, or we actually get the advancement rules, which I seriously doubt. I don't think we're going to get that until we get the full book.
Yeah.
Uh, this is as far as it's going to go for now when it comes to 7th C 3rd edition within the monastery. But it's still pretty good. It's still pretty good from what we're seeing.
Yes.
So, until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.
Bye, everyone.